Round number 8 at the Grand National Cross Country ATV Racing Series is being brought to you today by Suzuki, maker of innovative motorcycles and all-terrain vehicles. Visit your Suzuki dealer and see the complete award-winning lineup today. Dave Reef and Scott Summers welcome you back to a very rainy racetrack right now that sees Matt Smiley leading Bill Ballance, Chris BORICH.
Now, this is a very difficult situation when the rain is actually coming down when you're going around the track because it just kills your visibility. These guys have special goggle systems that they use. They have tear-offs, which is like a thin plastic sheath over top of their goggle lens. They have 3 or 4 of those that they can pull. And then after that, they have a roll-off system, which is like 2 canisters of clear film that they advance by pulling a string. You know, they get about probably 50 sets of clear vision. But those things can get damaged and stop working. And boy, you really have to see to be able to go through the terrain that these guys are going through, especially at the speeds at which they are conquering it.
Now William Yoakley's made his way back up tonight. Riding in the mud like this, though, Scott, is it physically harder?
It is physically harder because the motorcycles or the quads get heavier. You know, I calculated at one time that my machine picked up 86 pounds of mud. So you can imagine, you know, the 350, 400-pound machine picking up an additional, you know, almost 100 pounds. It gets to be a whole lot of work.
Brad Page currently running in 4th in the pro class. Is it better in the woods section? Is the rain not as much a factor?
I don't know. You know, those trees are pretty solid, and they're threading those bikes through like needles, you know, in some really tight spots. So your precision has to be, it's a lot more critical. You can't make a mistake. You have to kind of leave some room for the bike to move a little bit, but those a lot of obstacles to keep you honest.
You saw William Yoakley up to 7th after starting dead last. Not by any means smoothing the course out as this mud. You got to see the ATVs hopping around pretty good there on the straightaway.
You know, something else that's critical is suspension. As the machines get heavier, the suspension feels softer. So you can't hit bumps quite as hard once you're loaded down with mud.
Santo DeRisi in a battle for 7th. He's 5th right now, and ATV points coming into this race. Boy, the going's tough through there. To the checkpoint.
And these machines are so wide, you almost have to make a spot to pass sometimes. So you see a little bit of bumping, the guy trying to make some room to squeeze his way through.
Certainly not the fastest lap times we'll see this year by far. Probably some of the most entertaining, though.
Yeah, it sure is.
More riders coming through the checkpoint now. All you have to do is just look at their number to figure out who they are. Can you tell?
Yeah.
That's one tough thing about the mud.
You know, mud varies in consistency. When the rain is actually coming down, the mud's kind of sloppy and has a tendency to fall off of the bike, which is good. If it were to stop raining and the sun was to come out, that's when it would really get miserable because the mud gets even stickier. And gosh, the things are just really hard to ride because they're so heavy.
You saw Brian Baker in for an early pit stop, maybe trying a different strategy under the mud. Your current leader in the production class back out on the course right now. Might take a couple of pit stops today. Shed a few pounds of mud and make sure you're good to go the distance with gas and fluids and everything you might need to get through this day.
The goggles are critical, and you don't want to take them off because the minute you do, you know, you get hit right in the eyeballs with mud, and then you know, you're done.
Yoakley still hot on it. Has moved his way up to 5th. The good news for him is, of course, he gets to drop a couple of races, and his worst finish to date come in just a few rounds ago in Kentucky when he finished 5th. One of the more open sections. This course not quite as hilly as we've seen others.
You know, another thing critical about the mud is it makes the machine slippery. When you grab a hold of the grips, your gloves actually slide around on the handle grips, which means you have to squeeze a lot tighter. Your butt slides on the seat, so every time you accelerate, it's like you're trying to slide off the back of the bike, so you have to use more energy to keep yourself in the place on the machine that you want to be.
Just saw Chad Duvall in a very good position, running in 2nd place in the production class. The winner of the last 3 production races also took the overall win in Kentucky. Is the mud enough of an equalizer again today? Well, Matt Smiley is leading. Bill Ballance, Chris BORICH, and Brad Page all very close. Dave Reef and Scott Summers welcome you back to Taylortown, Pennsylvania, in the checkpoint here. Some of our racers coming into the pits for their pit stop. Here's Matt Smiley. No new goggles, kind of a surprise there.
When you're leading, you don't have to worry so much about fresh goggles.
This is true. And Brad Page making his way back out on the courses. Most of our leaders have completed their pit stops now and are back on the course. Derisi was far back, is about 7th or 8th place early in this race, has moved up a couple positions to 6th, trying to chase down this man, William Yoakley, the current points leader. He's tied with Smiley, doesn't want to give up anymore. You can see he definitely needs a pair of goggles.
Yeah, some of the guys will actually change their gloves too, which really helps them control the machine. Of course, it takes a long time to change gloves, so it'd almost be nice if they had Velcro gloves. You could just slap a pair off and a new pair on.
Maybe you thought of something else for this. Brian Baker now in. He's the leader in the production class. Just coming in for a pair of goggles. We saw him in earlier for a quick gas stop. Doesn't need that now, just to make sure his vision is unimpaired as he tries to hold off Chad Duvall. Well, William Yoakley looking as good as he does when he's in the lead, but he can make it all the way to the front.
He certainly can. That's a tricky little section. There's Brian Baker coming up. Right there, William Yoakley's rear tires kind of went over to the side. What we call that is a swap, when the rear tires kind of go a different direction from the front tires. And William made it look like it wasn't a problem at all.
Brian Baker did as well, right, when you pointed that out. Everybody get to have a little fun hanging it out.
Yeah, what's really critical is regulating the amount of throttle on these slippery surfaces. You know, you want to give it enough throttle where you get the acceleration, but a little bit too much, you get wheel spin, and of course you're out of control.
Speaking of out of control, Balance riding like a madman is caught up to Matt Smiley and dusts around him on the outside. We've got a new race leader. Another man who's not afraid to get just a wee bit out of control. There's Yoakley through that same section where everybody else was hanging it out on the right side a little bit.
And one of the things that's interesting is watch these guys, sometimes they sit down, sometimes they stand up. When they're standing up, they're actually absorbing the bumps that the motorcycle isn't. When they're sitting down, they're weighting the rear tires, trying to get those tires to get some traction.
Well, we've got a new leader at the front. Well, it's an old leader. It's Matt Smiley's. Balance has dropped all the way back to 4th.
Yeah, my guess is he probably got stuck. In conditions like they are here, it's not unusual for a guy to get stuck and have to take a few minutes to get out, and of course that cost him positions.
Guys, just a second ago, what was that?
He's like, some guys yell. I actually heard of some people hearing whistle and putting it in their mouth and giving it a blast. They'll do anything they can to get around slower riders as fast as they can.
There's Balance. You see him back in 4th place, but certainly within earshot of the top 3. Baker continuing to lead in the production class. That's a tricky section right there, and it's only going to get trickier as the afternoon goes on and gets slicker.
Yeah, you know, this isn't like driving your car. These guys are regulating the pressure on their rear brake as well as their front brake. You don't just jam the brakes on. There's a method by which you use the brakes.
You saw Duvall was getting very, very close as well to Brian Baker. Duvall trying to extend his win streak to 4.
And these should be Chad's conditions. You know, the Honda 4-stroke, or 4-strokes in general, work really good in slippery conditions. And as you can see, there's no shortage of slippery on this course.
Oh, nice move right there. Tucking to the inside of the hay bale to sneak a position away. As we go on board for the first time today with Mark Hyden. Perfect idea just how tough it is inside of the forest. Oh, hold on. Brian Baker getting in contact with somebody there, pinching him up against a tree. Duvall now working his way into the forest. BORICH is now the leader. Smiley getting caught up with somebody. Balance has moved up to 2nd. Got positions swapping all over the place.
Brian Baker is also on a 4-stroke. You can tell by the sound of that engine. It's got a little deeper, throatier sound.
Baker going through the checkpoint ahead of Santo Derisi. Fall back now to Chad Duvall. Interesting black thing on his helmet. What's that, Scott?
Yeah, basically it's like foam rubber, and what the guys discovered is that mud doesn't stick to foam, so the mud will hit his visor and then fall off, and it basically keeps several pounds of mud from accumulating on his helmet. It really saves your the strength. You know, your neck has to support all that weight, and it can really fatigue you after a while. So these guys come up with all these little interesting tricks to prevent the accumulation of mud or the accumulation of weight.
Great battle for third between Page and Smiley. Lap times confirm that Duval is beginning to catch Baker. In fact, he's caught him. Dunn left him behind. There is BRYAN. Thought he pretty much had this one under control. As BORICH, the leader in the pro class now, not letting him get too far away the rest of the field.
Now, several hundred riders circulate this course. They kind of peel off the slippery and they get down into what's got a little bit more traction.
William Yoakley starting to get ever closer to the front as well. Only about the quickest lap times on the course being provided by that rider.
You could tell by his level of aggression. You know, he's really slamming into those berms and making some calculated moves, hoping he doesn't go in with too much horsepower, catch traction, and of course do what we call high side or roll over. These guys are constantly making predictions as to how much traction they're going to get, and then that's how they decide how much throttle or how much brake to use. The guys that are the best at making those predictions are the guys that don't have anybody in front of them.
Saw Smiley go by in third, Page ahead of him in fourth. William Yoakley now is his way around the lap rider, taking a bit of a chance there. Holy cow.
He's lucky he didn't get watered in the airbox. That could have ended his day right there.
Bill Ballance is taking over the lead from BORICH. Great battle side by side there. BORICH looking for his best finish of the year, only has a fourth place best to date. Ballance, of course, with all those race wins. Oh, wheel to wheel! Good stuff. Ballance gets the checkpoint first. BORICH went in right behind him. Now, do they have to go to the left side?
Yeah, there's one row for the pro class and then one row for everybody else.
Well, here is your top five. Ballance, BORICH, Smiley, Page, and William Yoakley.
He's looking down at this machine like he's got a problem.
Not sure if he does. Problems for Duval, who's heading back into the forest. As far as the battle in the top five, down the big hill and up around this real tricky section. Very important to keep the momentum up here, I got to imagine.
Yeah, it is. You know, the momentum can be your friend, especially on uphills. You kind of calculate how much speed you need and sometimes try to coast up these slippery spots, because if you grab a handful of throttle, you may just do a big 180 or 360 and wind up heading back the other direction.
Somewhere out front there is Chris BORICH trying to get around one of the lap riders stuck in the mud a little bit. Not sure if he's got a bike problem or he literally is stuck. He definitely is stuck. Holy cow!
This guy's dragging half the forest. Yeah, I think what happened is one guy got high-centered, and these guys don't really have reverse, so they can sometimes even rely on somebody coming up from the back and bumping them, and that'll be just enough momentum to get them going again. Small
trees aren't quite so hard when it's so wet. You can just take them out of the ground with you.
Oh, it looks like Brian Baker's having a problem. Got stuck behind a slower rider.
We were just talking about momentum, and you can see Baker's momentum has been snuffed. That's good news for Chad Duval. Continues to lead the production class. As far as our pro riders go, it's Bill Ballance atop the leaderboard, trying to win his fourth consecutive pro race. Today's GNCC race in Taylortown, Pennsylvania is brought to you by Suzuki, maker of innovative motorcycles and all-terrain vehicles. Visit your Suzuki dealer and see the complete award-winning lineup today. Back for the final time at Mathews Farm to see if Bill Ballance can continue to hold on to the lead and win his fourth consecutive race. So far, seems to have things pretty well in hand, Scott.
Yeah, I was just looking at the course. You know, there's some wear and tear there, big mud holes and slippery spots and ruts. And you saw a guy a minute ago dragging a tree branch, you know, next to his quad. The Racer Productions crew goes to a lot of effort to return all of this back to normal after the races. They fill in the ruts and plant grass seed. You know, 2 months after one of these races, you can never tell these guys were ever here.
Brad Page has a flat left rear tire. That makes cornering a little dicey.
Yeah, he's got to use a little exaggerated body English because, of course, the machine sits lower on that one side. You know, one good thing is that they can't really handle a front flat at all. Rear flat they're able to get by with, at least get it back around, not lose too much time. But a front flat, it's almost impossible to even operate the machine.
You're talking all the event about throttle control, and you really can kind of see it here. You might expect these guys to carry a lot more momentum through here, and I assume if the conditions were drier, they certainly would.
Yeah, absolutely. Lap times would be amazingly faster if it wasn't for all this mud.
Not sure what's going on with Chris BORICH back there, but that's the rider pulling over to the right, that's screen left. Watching on your recliner.
I'm not sure what he was doing, but he seems to be back on the gas again now. Maybe he pulled his goggles off or had some kind of mechanical issue.
Balance hard on it, down the long downhill, the final corner. You want to get an idea of these bikes? Well, imagine you're the flagman. Bill Ballance, you've just taken the white flag, checkered flag. Bill Ballance does get the win. It's his 5th this year and 4th consecutive. Great battle for second to the finish line. Smiley and Yoakley. Who's it going to be? Give it to Matt Smiley. Yoakley salvages a 3rd after starting dead last. A great race for him as BORICH and Santo Derisi round out the top 5. Rain or shine, you just can't stop Bill Ballance. And if I'm the competition, I'm afraid that Ballance has taken on the form that's led him to the #1 plate so many times.
There was 3 or 4 guys out there was putting on the best ride that they've put on all year. It seems like Brad Page and William Yoakley and Matt. Everybody was out there just rocking and rolling today. The track had a good groove in it, and everybody was on the gas.
Matt Smiley and William Yoakley's great finish allows Smiley, thanks to the 2nd place finish, to get a 1-point lead in the series as Matt Smiley's now finished on the podium 8 consecutive ATV races, but he knows it's going to take more than that to win the championship.
You know, it's 8 podiums in a row, which is great. I'm still a points leader. I probably extended it by 1 point, but you know, I got to start winning here. I led this race, pretty much dominated most of it, and I got to start winning.
As dominant as Bill Ballance has become in the pro class, in the production, it's all Chad Duvall, 35 seconds better than Brian Baker. His 3rd consecutive win and 4th this year. Still does not find him on the points page, though, as Baker has a comfortable lead, 30 better than Curtis Crump. Well, this one was like no other, Scott.
Yeah, mud races are different, and we have some of the same guys doing really well, but it definitely requires different techniques.
It also requires a few chances be taken, like grabbing a tree branch and hauling it through the woods. Next up for us, we head to our 9th race in our 9th different state in McHenry, Maryland for the WISP GNCC in 1 week's time here on the Outdoor Life Network. Until then, for Scott Summers, I am Dave Reeve. Hope you enjoyed the mud bog with us. We'll see you next time for Maryland.